Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, again from upstate New York, Matt Mallory. Matt is, of course, the guy behind Meet the Pressers, and he also does some shows with this guy named Charlie every once in a while that you may be familiar with. He and Charlie Cook do some shows together. Matt, thanks for coming along today, man.
Thanks for having me, sir. Always fun.
Uh, Want to mention as we get started, please like and share the feed. We are growing, but I'd like to continue to grow and grow more. So no matter where you're at, please like and share the video you're seeing. We would love to grow the show a little bit more. Also, if you want to get your comment on the air, just go ahead and comment on either the live YouTube or Facebook videos, and we get those comments right away if you're watching on the Polite Society podcast channels. If you're catching us anywhere else, try commenting. If we don't get those comments, just scoot on over to either YouTube or Facebook on the Polite Society podcast feeds, and we comment again. We get those comments right away. So let me go ahead and bring up social media. We're already getting people checking in, including
Nice.
CNT Designs and Arms, who, by the way, will be one of our commentators on Saturday. This is the first time I've ever opened up to a listener or viewer to come in and be part of the crew. CNT is going to be joining us on Saturday as part of our weekend bullet. So let me go ahead and get started here. First story is Oregon legislature passes ghost gun ban. We read a little bit about this off of Oregon Public Broadcasting. After a tumultuous legislative session and the longest walkout in Oregon history, Oregon legislators voted Wednesday to ban so-called ghost guns, unserialized and 3D printed firearms, which are assembled at home and can easily be purchased online. Baloney. The original legislation would have allowed cities and counties to prohibit firearms in their buildings and raise the minimum age to buy a firearm in the state from 18 to 21. Those provisions were scrapped as part of a deal to bring Senate Republicans back to work. And finally, at a March gun control rally in Salem, Oregon Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum said gun safety measures were her top priority this legislative session. Matt, this is going to do absolutely nothing to
No.
fight violent crime in Oregon. Matter of fact, it may make it worse. Your thoughts on a ghost gun ban?
Yeah, well, just like you put the word ghost in front of gun or the word assault in front of rifle, and they're going to try to demonize something like that. I recently did about a week and a half ago. I was downtown Syracuse at the Taste of Syracuse, and we were doing investigative reporting. Asking people, what do you think of the Second Amendment? And one of the ladies pops off, you don't need an assault rifle. The media and these politicians have just pushed these false narratives, fake names, just to stir fear so they can use that to push their political agenda. And people are falling for a hook, line, and sinker. The bad guys aren't going to abide by the law. Stopping
No.
good people from being able to defend themselves against bad guys, I don't get why these politicians don't get it, or they get it and they just don't want, the general populace at all, anybody to be armed,
Yeah,
especially the good people.
exactly. But look, great point here by CNT Designs and Arms. Most of the so-called ghost guns they see are firearms that have had the serial number removed. Somebody
Yep.
picked up an old revolver on the street somewhere, took a Dremel to the serial number, and now the police and the media call that a ghost gun.
That's true. That's just another. They're just conglomerate. They just keep adding it on. Like it's a 3D printing gun now. It's a 80% lower. It's a gun with a serial number scratched off, and the major majority of them are those. They're those the gang guns, the community guns, the guns that the ones that they don't have a holster for. They just shoved in their britches because they don't want to be
Right.
caught with an empty holster. Right.
Right. Let me get this one in again. It's also CNT. He says, "What is easier, removing a serial number or building a functional gun?" That's a great point. I have the
Yes.
technical knowledge to get the correct bit on the end of a Dremel and rub it over the serial number, I do not know that I could take a 3D printing press, not without several tries, a 3D printer, hook it up to my computer, get the correct files, get it printed, and then turn that printed piece into a functioning either pistol or rifle. I don't know that I could do that without a lot of tries, and I consider myself to be fairly intelligent.
Yeah, same. I mean, I built guns. I haven't done a 3D gun yet, but I've built guns in the past, even 80% lowers, and it's work. It takes time, and you screw something up, your jig isn't right, and you're not going to have a gun that works correctly. That only's a one-shot willy. Which I've done it. I've had it. Jig was just off a little bit. The detent was a little bit off, and the gun goes bang. You have to force it to fire again, so it's basically a bolt action.
Well, that's the best case scenario of a failure. If it goes bang and half your hand goes with it, that's a bad deal.
Very true. Very true.
Next one I want to get to, and I should have got to this yesterday, but we just flat ran out of time in the show yesterday with Dan Waz. Biden mocks Second Amendment supporters, saying you need an F-16 to take on the government. President Biden took another swipe at Second Amendment supporters Tuesday evening, reminding them that they would need an F-16 to challenge the U.S. government. Biden's remarks at a fundraising event at a private residence in California came as he discussed gun violence in America and stressed the notion that Americans do not need AR-15s. We have to change, he said. There's a lot of things we can change because the American people, by and large, agree you don't need a weapon of war. I'm a Second Amendment guy. I taught it for 4 years, 6 years in law school, which was it. And guess what? It doesn't say you can own any weapon you want. It says there are certain weapons you can't own, even during when it was passed. You couldn't own a cannon. You can't own a machine gun. No, I'm serious. Yeah, let me
I don't see. Yeah, I don't see that anywhere in there. I mean,
let me go ahead and turn you around because you're actually mirrored right now.
Am I?
And unless
a well-regulated militia being necessary to, right? I mean, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
It doesn't say the right of the people shall not be infringed except for cannons. That's not there.
Right. I think his Alzheimer's is kicking. He's forgetting what it says or what it doesn't say. I don't know how to combat that. It's like you see those little memes where they're like, nothing you said makes sense. Anything you just said, none of that. That's not how it works. You're wrong. What do you say to something? It's like somebody's speaking a foreign language and you just stand there dumbfounded looking at them like, I have no clue what you're talking about. None of that makes sense.
Yeah. Let me get this one
Scary.
in here. This one, how did a country that was about 2 steps out of the Stone Age beat the might out of the U.S. Armed Forces? Yeah, Vietnam did not have a Air Force to speak of, and they fought the U.S. to a standoff, and then Nixon just gave up.
You got Vietnam, you got our War of Independence, you've got the Civil War. I mean, there's just so many cases that you can see that you don't need a jet. Sometimes you just need veterans and people that had enough.
Yeah.
Boston Tea Party, right? The shot heard around the world.
Exactly.
I think Biden needs a history lesson. I'm sad to say that he went to Syracuse University. Didn't they just give him that degree, though? I don't think he earned it.
I think it was the same degree that Obama got when he went through college.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. George Geller, let me get this one in. He says, quiet, Dems will want to outlaw Dremels.
Dremels, hammers, fireworks. I mean, outlaw
I
it all.
I don't know. I don't know who is this. This is coming off a Facebook group, so I don't always get the names when they come out of a Facebook group, so I don't know who sent this. But F-16. So then AR-15s aren't weapons of war. If you
Hmm.
need an F-16 to defeat the government, yeah, the AR-15 shouldn't be a big deal. Or honestly,
Right.
the M4 or the M16.
Yeah.
You know,
Full auto 3 round burst, either or.
yeah, um, yeah. I'm we'll get to more about Biden here in a couple stories, but Matt, I do want to move on to our next one. New Jersey scores a victory in federal court over concealed carry gun legislation. This is off NorthJersey.com. A federal court issued an order in favor of the state on Tuesday as the latest development in the legal battle over gun reform legislation. The order, a stay requested by the state last month, will make it so enforcement of limits on where concealed weapons can be carried in New Jersey is not restricted. The motion filed by the state's attorney general's office said that not allowing enforcement of the restrictions threatens public safety by allowing loaded guns in crowded theaters, bars, protests, and 4th of July celebrations in parks, as well as zoos and libraries where children gather, just to name a few. When Judge Marie Bum issued her injunction, she said the reforms signed into law last December by Murphy, challenged almost immediately by gun rights activists, are aimed primarily not at those who unlawfully possess firearms, but at law abiding, responsible citizens. She also said the law to limit where concealed weapons could be carried went too far and called the law plainly unconstitutional. I think Bum got it right, Matt. I think the appellate court got it wrong. And don't, for those who are watching or listening, this will not end here. It's going to go on. It's going to go up
And
to the Supreme Court.
there's yeah, many cases that are going to the Supreme Court. I think we can hope and pray for it doesn't take 7 years like Bruin did, and that the Supreme Court dynamics doesn't change in that time frame.
Well, I know for a fact, because we did discuss it briefly yesterday, there's a case that the Biden administration is asking the Supremes to take. They were supposed to meet about it today in a closed door session. The Supremes were,
Mm.
where the Fifth Circuit granted a injunction against the federal government of enforcing against people that have had a restraining order put against them, and the Supremes are supposed to see if they're going to add that to next year's docket today. And as of about 30 minutes before we went to air, I had not heard anything about that. So, um, yeah, we'll see. But Matt, I mean, we're I used to think when I very first started this show, we could win our gun rights back by election, by putting the right people in office, by getting enough right people in office to get these laws pushed back and overturned. I honestly believe now the way we're going to get our gun rights back is through the courts and elections. While they are important, at least on the presidential level, because that's how you get who's on the Supreme Court,
Yep.
elections on the state and local level, yeah, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think totally, and I think people need to get out and vote more. I think people need to stop saying my vote doesn't count. Because if everybody has that mindset, excuse me, if everybody has that mindset, then your vote doesn't count. So if everybody just stops saying that, actually know when it's going to put in your calendar, make sure that you don't forget that you got to vote, make sure you're registered to vote, research the candidates ahead of time, get out and vote. That's something that we can do, that we're allowed to do. I mean, Hitler's voting, Mickey Mouse is voting. Damn it, vote.
Yeah, I'm just saying this because it sounds funny, but it reminds me of a meme going around on the on Facebook, on social media lately, that I had to disown my grandfather. He voted Democrat for the first time in over 90 years. He's been dead for 30. You know.
I
Um,
mean, that's
let's see here. Let's get this one in. CNT Designs and Arms, who again today is just on fire. The
Yeah,
Biden
right.
administration has put over 100 leftist judges on the federal courts in the last couple of years. How do you think they will rule on firearms cases? Well, that is true. However, keep in mind that the Trump administration put over 300 judges into the federal system in their 4 years. Biden's got just over 100 in 2.5. So continuing on this trend, he's not going to do as much damage as Trump did good.
Right. And we saw we saw in New York, at least with the Bruin decision, we have 5 different cases that have come, well, not just New York, but across the country, and they've all purposely picked jurisdictions to bring that case forward, so that way it would go to kind of more of a conservative judge, which Democrats have been doing that for ages. So it's finally good to see that the conservatives are doing that to try to make that win happen at a lower level, even though it gets appealed, and then the district courts typically overturn it, put a stay on it, whatever. But the Supreme Court's where it's going to be at.
There was a story, I think we covered it last Saturday, I think, where Illinois has a new law where you can only sue the state of Illinois in Cook County, which is Chicago, and one other county that happens to be, I wish I had it in front of me, but it's the state capital there. Those are the only 2 counties where you can sue the state of Illinois,
It's
because
interesting.
they're saying they don't want any judge shopping, which is, of course, exactly what they're doing by passing this law, because
Yeah.
Cook County judges and the judges in
Corrupt.
the county where the state capital is
Yeah.
are, of course, going to be liberal judges. So,
Yeah, definitely. And I remember when I was in the military, they said you can't sue the federal government. Like, I'm property of the federal government. Your property can't sue the federal government. That's what they were saying.
yeah. This may be the last story we get to. We still got about 23 minutes, but there's a lot to this
Oh, yeah.
one. This is a fairly long story. Believe it or not, I got this off CNN's website. Uh, and President Joe
Surprisingly.
Biden made false claims about a variety of topics, notably including gun policy, during a series of official speeches and campaign remarks over the past 2 weeks. I'm just going to go over some of the fact checks that CNN did on Biden and then took him to task. And then we'll break after each one for commentary. On guns, in a Friday speech at the National Safer Communities Summit in Connecticut, Biden spoke of how a gun control law he signed in 2022 has provided federal funding for states to expand the use of gun control tools like red flag laws, which allow the courts to temporarily seize the guns of people who are deemed to be a danger to themselves or others. And after mentioning the red flag laws, Biden invoked his late son, Beau Biden, who served as Attorney General of Delaware, and said, as my son was the first to enforce when he was the Attorney General. Their fact check, that's false. Delaware did not have a red flag law when Beau Biden was state Attorney General from 2007 to 2015. The legislation that created Delaware's red flag program was named the Beau Biden Gun Violence Prevention Act, but it was passed in 2018, 3 years after Beau Biden died of brain cancer. The president had previously said correctly that Delaware red flag law was named after his son. And then they continue with Delaware was far from the first state to enact a red flag law. Connecticut passed the first such state law in the country in 1999. And yet, my first thought is it did nothing to stop Sandy Hook.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But that's, they don't want you to know those facts. No, 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 no. Typical politician. Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, he gets his facts wrong like that. He has ramblings. I mean,
And he's
all
been
day long. Like,
he's been
I
corrected
haven't.
on them so many times, and yet he
Yeah,
keeps doing it.
yeah, yeah. And like I'm not a. I voted for Trump, but I'm not a diehard Trumper. I'd rather have somebody else based on all the negative publicity that's around Trump. But I'd like to have somebody that would actually run the country like a business. That's why I voted for Trump and Perot back in the 90s, my first time voting. But, I mean, I can't imagine anybody like really in, you talk to somebody who voted for Biden, I wonder if they're like, yeah, I don't know why I did that. I mean, or I did it, but I'm not going to vote for him again. I'm not hearing that from people
I
out there.
I think there are a ton of those people. However, they're not saying it out
Yeah,
loud.
they
Um,
don't want to admit it.
yeah, and
Yeah,
so
I don't
because
blame them.
Biden's polling numbers as of last week, he was 15 points below where Trump was at the same point in his presidency. So personally, I wish Biden the best of health. I wish him
Yeah,
I wish him all the good in the world so he continues his presidential campaign and goes into the general election and he either goes up against Trump or DeSantis or another strong Republican candidate. I got to get uh, let me get a couple comments in here quick. Spartan 6. Oh, by the way, I haven't heard from you in a while. Welcome back, Spartan 6. Bo Biden invented the
invented
internet.
the internet.
He
Thought that
then
was
followed up
what's
with
his name?
probably. And MC had to correct him. Al Gore made that claim first. Bo Biden invented internet extortion.
Ah, gotcha.
So,
And it was all done in a garage in a convertible in Delaware.
yes.
Oh wait, no, that's sensitive documents. Sorry.
Mm. One more, and then we'll get on to the next fact check. This is from Tom Walls. We need a CEO for the USA, and Biden ain't him.
Yep.
Amen.
Spot on, Tom. Spot on.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder what would happen if I think I might know. What would happen if Elon Musk ran as an independent? Because he's certainly not a conservative Republican.
Right. I there's certain things I like about him. There's certain things I'm like, I mean, so like he wants to have everybody microchip. Like that's like satanic stuff, right? Isn't that like the mark of Cain kind of thing? I don't know, or I don't. Some things I like, some things I'm kind of hesitant about. But it'd be interesting to see him. I mean, look what he did with Twitter.
Yeah, I'm there. I mean, I I signed up for Twitter 15 years ago, 12 years ago,
Mhm.
somewhere in there. And I very quickly, because of the short amount of it makes you limit your words. Admittedly, I like talking. uh,
I
yeah,
knew
I
that
just
was
kind
coming.
of I fell away from it, and then I came back when Elon bought the thing and said, "Look, we're
Mhm.
getting rid of a lot of the bad stuff," and he did, and I'm back there now.
I've been on there for quite a while too, and never really did a lot with it. But I've been doing a little bit more with it now that he took over.
Um, well, and this, by the way, this is broadcast on Twitter every day under my personal profile. I am at Paul15561 is where I'm at on Twitter, and this is also broadcast there every day on Twitter. Uh, and then going on to stabilizing braces in the same speech from the last fact check, the president spoke out confusingly of his administration's effort to make it more difficult for Americans to purchase stabilizing braces, devices that are attached to the rear of pistols, most commonly AR-15 style pistols, to make it easier for them to be fired one-handed. Put a pistol on a brace and it turns it into a gun, Biden said. See, it wasn't beforehand. It makes them
Right?
where you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet. Only if, like what Matt and I said earlier, you want the thing to go boom and half your hand to go with it. Makes them where you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun. It is essentially turning it to a short-barreled rifle, which has been a weapon of choice by a number of mass shooters. That was Biden comments. Then they did fact check it. Biden's claims that a stabilizing brace turns a pistol into a gun and increases the caliber of a gun or bullet are false. A pistol is obviously already a gun, and a pistol brace does not have any effect on the caliber of ammunition that a gun fires or anything about the basic functioning of the gun itself, said Stephen Gutkowski, a CNN contributor who is the founder of the gun policy and politics website, The Reload. Really glad that that CNN can lean on Gutkowski. Biden's assertion that the addition of a stabilizing brace can essentially turn the pistol into a short-barreled rifle is subjective. It's the same argument his administration's Bureau of BATFE has made in support of his attempt to subject the braces to new controls. The administration's regulatory effort is being challenged in the courts by gun rights advocates. And by the way, we're going to win that. We already have largely in the Fifth Circuit.
Yep, sure. It's huge overreach. It's unconstitutional. They're going after legal law-abiding citizens, a product that it's a part that they said was legal numerous times, and now they're automatically just with a swing of their wand. 10 million people are now felons. What did they say the percentage was that actually registered? Like 0.6.
Yeah, it was less than one.
Crazy amount. Like maybe 100,000 out of, or less than that out of 10 million people. It's like that's mass non-compliance right there. That tells you. But Mark, they'll probably end up hiring 80,000 new ATF agents to go out and start arresting people. Knowing this administration.
All right, we're running down on the end of the show here, so I'm gonna skip to the machine gun one. At the same time,
flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. At the same Tuesday fundraiser in California, Biden, he said he taught the Second Amendment in law school, and guess what? It didn't say you could own any weapon you want. It says there are certain weapons you just can't own. One example Biden cited was you can't own a machine gun. Going to their fact check, Biden's claim is false. The Second Amendment does not explicitly say people cannot own certain weapons, and you and I, Matt, talked about that earlier. The courts have not interpreted it to forbid machine guns. In fact, with some exceptions, people in more than 2/3 of the states are allowed to own and buy fully automatic machine guns as long as those guns were legally registered and possessed prior to May 19, 1986, the day President Ronald Reagan signed a major gun law. There were more than 700,000 legally registered machine guns in the U.S. as of May 2021, according to official federal data. That's one where I think that's going to change because of the Bruin decision, Matt. I think eventually the 1986 Gun Owners Protection Act, which is where that comes in, is going the machine gun part of it is going to get reversed in the Supreme Court. We're going to be able to, in the future, buy the M16 and the M4, the 2024, 2025, 2026 versions.
And this is the thing. Full auto and 3-round burst. 3-round burst, more so, is, they, in the military went from full auto to 3-round burst to full auto to 3-round burst. They kept going back and forth. When I was in, it's a 3-round burst back in the 90s. Okay? The A1. It's not an accurate, full auto is not accurate, right? You're not accurate. It's suppressive fire. It's warning shots. You're not going to be as accurate with that. Now, it's attached to a tank or a vehicle, maybe a little bit more, but in your hands, accuracy isn't going to be as good. So that's why they went from full auto to 3-round burst for most military, foot officer, foot soldiers and such. So this whole fallacy, I mean, people want to shoot full auto, they want to own full auto, great, but it's more of a fun thing than it is actually something that's going to be accurate or, a huge
effective
stopper. Effective, yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ludicrous.
My experience with full auto has been exactly a grand total of 2 times. Most recently, to help out Charlie Cook, I went down to our local gun range that had a full auto Glock 18 for rent.
Nice. Yep.
And what I will say about this is the Glock 18, you make that thing a 3-round burst if you can. Well, if your finger's fast enough, you make that a 3-round burst. You don't want to fire that thing full auto because it climbs quick.
Yep. Rides right up on you.
It's just
exactly.
If you can pull and release quick enough, you'll get a 3-round burst.
Yep.
But beyond
that's
that, man,
that's the way to do it.
Great.
Agreed.
Let me get a couple things here real quick in on comments, and we got to get out of here. But backwards country criminals are running the asylum, says MC, and CNT says the '86 Gun Owners Protection Act was insane and never should have passed. I missed this one, or this would have made it today. He also said, Dick Durman said today that when you put a brace on an AR pistol, it turns it into an AK-47. Wow.
The ignorance, the insanity that's coming out of these politicians' mouths. It's almost as ludicrous as all these people that are shoplifting, literally just walking in. I just watched one Mr. Guns and Gear posted something of a guy coming in with a blowtorch and just like blowtorching the security cable so that he could steal some stuff. And he's just taking his time, has all the time in the world, like insane.
Yeah.
The world's gone mad.
It has, especially in places like San Francisco, to a large degree like Los Angeles, like New York City, where you've got these prosecutors that are just catch and release.
Yep.
That is going to do it. We've got a lot more, but that's all the time we have for today. Matt, on our way out, man, would you please plug Meet the Pressers and your training and anything else you want to promote, man?
Yeah, definitely. So meetthepressers.com, that links you over to Clinton, my training company. My training company is Public Safety Education, publicsafetyeducation.com or psnet.com. Doing training, instructor training all over the country. I've got some saber pepper spray and UTM courses coming up in Maryland, Montana. I'll be in Michigan teaching at Rick Hector's ladies event, and I'll be out in Washington also in August teaching a pepper spray instructor class. And then in New York, I teach all over New York State, all different types of training.
I got to tell you, man, I am, and we're already over time, but screw it. It doesn't really get bad until we get near the hour mark. But I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person and joining you at that at Rick Hector's women's shooting event at the end of July. That is going to be an absolute blast, man.
I agree. Likewise, it'd be fun.
All right. Well, that does do it for us today, folks. I'm going to go ahead and shut the show down. Podcast listeners, thank you for listening. Viewers, thank you for watching. And everybody, thank you for commenting. Please do come join us tomorrow for Training Friday. Our topic with Tom Walls tomorrow for Training Friday is my grip is better than your grip. My stance is better than your stance. We're going to sort all that out and tell you that the Chapman is actually the best stance. It's better than Isosceles, better than Weaver. We're gonna and the cross thumb grip is far better than the thumb's forward grip. We'll prove that all tomorrow. Until then, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you.